Good morning. How is everybody today? Great. It's so good to see you here. Just need to get a few little housekeeping items out of the way. At the end of the presentation, we'll be scanning badges in the back. Paul is back there that will help out. And just to let you know, and some of you probably have heard this before, how many people are AFCEA members? Okay, great. If you're AFCEA members, when you scan your badge, you're automatically sent an email after a week or two, or maybe three, of your participation in this CEU. If you're not an AFCEA member, you will need to request the documentation, and that will be sent to you. I guess this is my plug for saying, please become a member of AFCEA, because once again, it allows you to get your documentation for your CEU credits seamlessly, right? Also, there's lots of different benefits, resources, webinars, and other great just benefits of becoming a member of AFCEA. And it's around $55. I think they have a 10% discount during the conference. So it's quite, inexpensive compared to other professional organizations. So just to give you that plug for AFCEA and becoming a member. Today we have a very exciting topic, developing hands-on cybersecurity challenges to improve training and assessment. And we have Mr. Jarrett Booz from the Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon University. And I want to say a few words about him, and then I'll hand it over to Jarrett. Jarrett is a cybersecurity engineer at Carnegie Mellon University, Software Engineering Institute. He joined the SEI in 2018 and currently serves as the technical lead for the President's Cup cybersecurity competition. Jarrett has developed dozens of hands-on cybersecurity challenges in addition to building infrastructure to support cybersecurity exercises and competitions for federal government partners. So thank you, Jarrett, for being here with us, and I'll hand it over to you.
Sure, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. It was good to have an excuse to come out to Hawaii and get away from the cold weather that's in Pittsburgh right now. So hope the rest of you are enjoying the weather as well. As Mary said, I'm Jarrett Booz from the Software Engineering Institute. I'm going to talk to you about cybersecurity challenges and how they can be used to kind of enhance training objectives. So the first slide is the most fun. This is the legalese that the Software Engineering Institute likes me to show you guys. So the rest of the presentation won't be nearly as interesting as this part here. So first, a little bit about me. As Mary said, I'm Jarrett. I started my cybersecurity journey at Towson University in Maryland, just outside of Baltimore. Good school, partnerships with NSA and other areas, other agencies in the Baltimore, DC area. Then I made my way over to Carnegie Mellon at the Information Networking Institute for grad school. That's where I started at SEI. I started as an intern, then progressed on to the SEI, and they convinced me to stay and continue on. So I'm still at the SEI now. So I've said SEI a lot. You might be wondering what the SEI is. So this is a federally funded research and development center, much like the other FFRDCs that you might be familiar with, MITRE and Lincoln Labs and so forth. We're similar to them. We were founded as the leader in software engineering, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence research. And I strongly believe that we're still the leaders in research in all of these fields. So we've grown a lot since 1984. We're about 730 employees now. Not nearly as big as some of the other FFRDCs, but we still have a lot of great minds at the SEI. We have headquarters in Pittsburgh. That's where I'm based out of. But we also have other offices near strategic partners elsewhere, California, DC, obviously, and those types of areas. So the SEI is a big place. We have a lot of different missions and directorates and so forth. The group that I work for is the CERT, Cyber Workforce Development Directorate. So what does CWD do? Well, our mission is to provide force multiplying solutions to rapidly grow and strengthen the nation's cybersecurity workforce. So we want to address problems of time, scale, and cost when it comes to training up the cyber workforce, getting your cyber operators to know exactly what they need to do and do so in an effective manner. So we aim to find gap areas in training that the industry has not yet addressed. And we do this in a variety of ways. So the way CWD kind of started out was with kind of larger scale exercises. We start off with XNet, CyberFlag, and the Gaining Cyber Dominance program, kind of back in the early 2010s. These were the largest scale cyber exercises put on. I think, even still today. We're talking about exercises with thousands of virtual machines in size. So this is where your cyber operators get in to their simulated network environment, thousands of virtual machines in size, and they're dealing with real threats that are coming in. Right? We have simulated attackers coming in, destroying your network, insider threats doing things that you have to find, isolate, mitigate, that sort of thing. So these huge cyber exercises were kind of the building blocks of what CWD is today. We've kind of stemmed from that. We still do those kind of more larger scale cyber exercises, but we've also pivoted to putting on more hands-on, on-demand training as well. So that's where the STEP platform kind of came into play. So the STEP platform was our first iteration of an on-demand training platform where users or your cyber operators can come in, take a small hands-on lab whenever they'd like to, and learn something right when they want to do it. Then we've also developed some more kind of hands-on curriculums, like the Marine Corps Cyber Operations Readiness Curriculum, to address some gaps in knowledge for specific partners. Now, the team that I've been working on inside of CWD, we're getting smaller and smaller here. So the team that I'm working on inside of CWD has worked on even smaller hands-on cyber training exercises. So these would be like the cybersecurity challenges that we're going to be talking about. So again, these are very hands-on exercises that your operators can use to practice the skills that they're actually going to be using in their real jobs. So overall, the mission of CWD has not changed very much. We're still finding and addressing these gap areas in training, but we've pivoted from only doing these huge 1,000 virtual machine type exercises that only a small handful of people might be able to experience at one time, to having these on-demand, hands-on labs that hopefully thousands of people can participate in whenever they have the time. So how big is the problem that CWD is trying to address? How big is this cybersecurity workforce gap area? Well, I'll put a number to it, 769,000, more than, right? Well, that is the number of job openings in the United States right now, cybersecurity job openings in the United States, 769,000. That's a big number. So that's the number of jobs that are open right now. That's how many more cyber operators we need. That's not taking into account additional training that our cyber operators may need for the job roles that they currently fill. And if you haven't seen, I might not be on the internet, but I was trying to show you this CyberSeek interactive map is pretty cool. Let's see if I can hop on the internet real quick. Do you have a Wi-Fi password? Which network is it?
Membership matters.
Oh, membership matters. Let's see. Got it.
That's the free Wi-Fi.
Okay.
You don't have to log into a page.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just skip it for now. Got it.
And then join. Right there, accessible to you.
Yeah, I can't see it very well from over there. Access code is join AppSia.
Yeah. Yeah, lowercase no, yeah.
That's right.
Somebody's gonna be
Well, I'm just on a regular website here anyway. But yeah, this is the website that I pulled that number from. So this is the CyberSeek program that NIST puts on. So this is a research initiative by NIST to find the cybersecurity job openings in the federal government. So you'll see that we have a very low supply of federal cyber workforce here. And it's cool that they pull out the different nice work roles that these jobs are for. So we need a whole bunch of cybersecurity analysts, software developers, and you can see the different areas where the employee or the job openings are as well. Yeah, Hawaii, let's see. 3,900? What's that? That's a low number? Yeah, well, I think the way this website works is it just looks at, there's like some list of websites that it pulls job openings from. So, but it's pretty cool to see, different areas and how many job openings they might have. Again,
how they define cybersecurity. There's a lot of, especially big jobs are you're wearing like multiple hats.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think the website has a bit more information about how they pull this data, but I won't get too far into it. I just wanted to kind of show that there's a cool resource out there that you can find some more information. Global statistics? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one. 2 million. Wow. I need to update my slides and pump up my numbers here. So how do we address this 700 to maybe 2 million or more problem, right? Well, there's a couple ways that we can do this. We can look at some guidance from DHS that says these are the 3 main challenges for attracting people to the cybersecurity workforce. So attracting people is actually only half of the problem, right? We actually have to convince people that cybersecurity is fun and cool and interesting, and that might be tough to convince some people about. But again, that's only half of the problem, is getting people interested. The other half is keeping them interested and teaching them what they need to know in order to do the job that they're attracted to. So we really need to provide hands-on kind of real-world, realistic training to these folks. So we need some type of training or exercises that teaches them what it would be like to do their job. On-the-job training is nice until it's your first day on the job and you get hit with like ransomware that wipes your whole system out and you're kind of freaking out. Well, we can simulate something like that in a training exercise and give them hands-on, real-world experience with the valuable content that comes from actually doing things without the real-world consequences of my whole company's infrastructure just got wiped. So what do I do now? Lectures and teaching and reading are good, but something like I'm doing now probably isn't enough to teach you how to do your job. After getting folks engaged in this hands-on content and giving them this real-world experience, we have to actually keep them engaged while learning. So if you have some lab that's not really engaging, folks aren't going to be interested, right? They're just going to try to find the answers and let me get this over with. And I think we've all had that experience with like mandatory training for your company, and you're like, please just let me get back to my job. I don't want to be doing this. Well, if we make training fun and interesting and engaging, then we actually encourage people to come back. We encourage them to actually want to participate in this training and maybe even take some more training. So making it fun and maintaining engagement is really difficult, but that's what we're trying to do. So how do we do this? What we want to see is kind of scenes like this where, you know, our operators are sitting in a room, collaborating, working together, and solving problems like they might actually do in the real world. And we can do this and encourage people to sharpen their own skills while doing so. And we can encourage, you know, maybe I'm an expert in one thing where somebody sitting next to me is an expert in something else. We can encourage collaboration and say, oh, you know, you're struggling on this, let me help you out. Or, you know, I know how to do that, so, you know, or, you know, ask each other questions and build that kind of collaborative environment. So we want to have new people engaging with experienced people and encouraging that team collaboration. And we want even the most experienced operators we have, we want them engaging with the content, sharpening, refining their skills, practicing, and so forth. So we can accomplish all of these goals with a competition type environment. So a competition with these hands-on challenges would encourage folks that are already have these really sharp skills to prove it, you know? Get on the top of the leaderboard, show me what you got. Or some new folks that, you know, are less experienced. Oh, you know, I really want to learn something. I really want to prove to myself that I'm as good as somebody else. So let me boost my score up and show people that I have what it takes too. So the goal of these competitions really boils down to learning through these hands-on challenges. So if we can create a realistic enough scenario that we can drop our participants or competitors in, then they'll receive that valuable hands-on experience that comes from solving a real-world problem. So they'll get practice in solving a problem that they might actually face in their day job. And they'll get rewarded for doing so. And again, we want these challenges to be as realistic as possible. If you know there's some challenge that might not actually test some skill that somebody would do in their day jobs, they're going to be, again, disinterested. Like, you know, I don't have to do this for work. Why do I need to know this? Why do I waste my time doing this? We want them to actually do something that they'll feel good about doing, like, oh wow, I actually did this at work the other day, let me learn the right way to do it, or, you know, something like that, or practice. And this is like a pseudo on-the-job training, right? So instead of getting thrown in and say, hey, our company got ransomware, please fix it, it's your first day on the job, good luck. You know, we can kind of put them in that fictional scenario, and you know, there's less pressure there. But some other benefits go back to keeping these participants engaged. So the leaderboard and scoring points in this competition provides that incentive to keep coming back, to do more challenges, to say, hey, you know, I scored, you know, 10,000 points higher than you. Well, you know, now I feel bad, so I'm going to go score 10,000 more points than you. You know, kind of get this back and forth competition of, you know, who's the best. That provides that incentive to keep coming back and keep learning and keep practicing your skills. And we can also have a team-based competition where we're really encouraging collaboration. We can build larger challenges that require a couple hands on the keyboard, right? Maybe somebody that's really sharp with digital forensics and somebody that's really sharp with you know, networking operations, and have all of these different skills tied together into one cohesive challenge that really encourages folks to collaborate and say, hey, you're good at this part, can you tackle this while I tackle that? Or some teams might take a different approach and say, all right, let's put both of our heads together on this problem and try to solve it faster than the other team did. So I've talked a lot about competitions and what makes me the expert. What do I know? Well, my group at SEI has worked on the President's Cup cybersecurity competition for the past 4 years. The President's Cup was established in 2019 when President Trump signed Executive Order 13870. So this executive order mandated that DHS put on a federal cybersecurity competition every year. The goal is to find and reward the best cyber talent in the federal government by means of competition. So when this executive order was signed in 2019, it mandated that the competition, the first year of the competition, be completed by the end of 2019. So we had about 6 months or so to do it. And SEI was really the only ones chomping at the bit saying, we really want to do this for DHS on such a crazy short timeline. We built the cybersecurity competition platform that's still used today. We built all of the challenges for it and executed a successful competition in 2019 in less than 6 months. So since then, we've been getting better and better at it. We've had more participants join each year. We're up to about 1,500 or so government employees that participate each year. And the challenges just keep getting more challenging, right? We bring out the best and the brightest in the federal government every year, and it's really hard for us to keep up and make sure that they are challenged and engaged and so forth. So this competition, we think it's been really successful for federal government employees getting engaged in cybersecurity content. We've also taken President's Cup challenges out to Black Hat and the Women in Cybersecurity Conference. I think we might have actually brought some President's Cup challenges if you were at this conference in April. I think we had some of our challenges here as well. But in these Black Hat and the Women in Cybersecurity Conference engagements, we've put on challenges, kind of used up challenges from the President's Cup that we can't use for the actual competition anymore, and put them out in the open. Anybody can participate. Please, take part. And specifically at WESIS, we were walking through some solutions and trying to encourage more engagement from newcomers. Say, hey, come on, into our room. Let us walk you through how to solve these different challenges, and trying to get people engaged that way as well. So I've talked a whole lot about challenges and the parts of these competitions. So what exactly is a challenge? Well, a challenge is going to be this hands-on lab that I've mentioned that's designed to test or teach a particular skill or set of skills. Now, the important part about these challenges is that they actually target a realistic skill. We don't want to make these challenges that are based on leaps in logic or esoteric skills that people aren't actually going to use, right? If your challenge is difficult because you have to figure out where these different puzzle pieces are with no information, and you're just kind of looking and you don't know what you're looking for, people get very frustrated. They don't understand what they are supposed to do. So it's very important when building these challenges to target a skill that they're actually going to use in the real world, and build the scenario in such a way that they know exactly what they're supposed to do. The hard part shouldn't be figuring out what am I supposed to do with these VMs or with this file. The hard part should be actually doing the skill that they would do in the real world. And we do that by using the NICE framework. So the NICE framework was established by NIST as a standardized set of work roles, tasks, and skills that cyber operators might actually do. An example of this is going to be a cyber defense analyst. So in the NICE framework, a cyber defense analyst is a defined work role that's like somebody's job might be categorized as cyber defense analyst, and they have some list of skills that a cyber defense analyst might have, and some tasks that go along with different job functions that they might do. So when the SEI is building challenges for the President's Cup, we try to ensure that every challenge targets a specific NICE work role and some subset of tasks that are associated with that work role. Now, we might have some challenges that are cyber defense analyst and cyber defense forensics analyst, or forensics and a network operator, again, to tie in different skills and encourage collaboration among teams. So it's not really a problem to have one challenge span across many different work roles. And in fact, that's often the case because some of the tasks overlap as well. But we don't want to have some challenge that is, something like, oh, I made up a programming language. Your job is to figure out what random syntax that I decided to create, and that's all the information you get. That would be very frustrating and like impossible to solve. That would be a very difficult challenge, and whoever solves that would be at the top of the scoreboard. But it's not very realistic, right? So again, we want to make these challenges target NICE work roles, NICE skills that a cyber operator might actually use in their real job. So after you kind of figure out, okay, I want to make this cybersecurity challenge for a cyber defense analyst, and I want to target these specific tasks that a cyber defense analyst might do. Well, now I actually have to think about, okay, how do I make this challenge? So the first thing that you probably want to think about is, how difficult do I want to make this challenge? And that's kind of a very difficult question to answer, because difficult for me might be super easy for somebody else. So you can think about the intended difficulty, and then as the challenge goes through various iterations of testing and quality assurance and so forth, you can narrow down, okay, this challenge actually came out to be way harder than I expected, so maybe we give it more points than we intended to. Or, wow, it turns out this challenge is really easy, I thought it was going to be really hard, so maybe we go back and tweak different aspects of it after it's developed. Yes? Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. What's that? Is there like a name for that?
I don't remember the name of it, but if you look up CEU,
Okay. Well, thank you for that. We'll take a look. Yeah, anything else? Anybody? Yeah, feel free to interrupt at any time with any questions. Cool. So now challenges you can actually make very easy by giving step-by-step instructions on do these tasks in this order, or run these commands in this order. Now, that's less of a challenge, but now you have this training lab that you can use for like a beginner, right? Like, oh, I've never used Wireshark before, and somebody gave me a packet capture. I have no idea how to analyze this. Well, here are step-by-step instructions that teach you how to solve this challenge. So again, that would be like very easy, where a more difficult challenge might not give you any steps at all, right? It'll say, here's this packet capture, figure out who did whatever attack, that kind of thing. So as part of that, you need to do some technical planning. So as part of technical planning, you would kind of gather some list of the resources that you think might be part of this challenge. So a lot of our challenges for the President's Cup use virtual machines, hosted virtual machines, so the competitor doesn't need to provide their own tools or anything else. So we would kind of take a look at the challenge. What VMs do I need? What tools need to be on those virtual machines so the competitor, again, doesn't need to provide their own software toolkit, right? We provide them everything they might need to solve the challenge. But you might also have things like packet captures, like I mentioned, or some forensic image if your challenge is, this machine got attacked, here's a forensic image of it, you have to figure out who the attacker was, what they did, and so forth. So you might need to start planning about how you're going to create those forensic artifacts as part of developing the challenge. And there might be some machines that you want to stage with vulnerabilities, we had a couple challenges use GitLab vulnerabilities or something for simulating a kind of solar winds type of attack, right? So we needed GitLab set up with all kinds of things in the environment and build processes and so forth that the competitors could then take advantage of. So kind of planning out what technical pieces are going to be part of your challenge is important. That way you don't kind of get halfway through development and have to go, oh, you know what, I actually needed to do this a different way, and let me go back and redo everything. Another important aspect is the actual scenario. So this, to me, and to a lot of my colleagues, is the hardest part of developing the challenge. It's kind of like a creative aspect of the challenge development. You have to think of some realistic type of scenario to put these competitors in, and it gets tough to get into that creative part of your brain when you're doing hands-on keyboard work for most of the day. So it can be a little fun to think about different scenarios that you want to put people in. But the scenarios should have some kind of background information that says, here's what's going on. You are a forensic analyst. Your company has been hit with ransomware. You're provided this forensic image of this particular machine. Your job in this challenge is to figure out X, Y, and Z. That type of scenario is what allows the competitor to understand what is actually going on. Yes? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So all of these are related, right? It's not necessarily a 1, 2, 3 process. It's just kind of 3 different aspects of the planning that you need to be thinking about. So yeah, that's exactly right. If you want to do a network operations challenge, then maybe you think of this scenario next and say, okay, I want to do a network challenge. Maybe I had an insider threat that got fired and they still had their access and they just totally ransacked the network, right? So that's the technical planning and the scenario planning kind of working together. Then you would think about those technical pieces that you need. Okay, I need these different types of routers or firewalls and so forth. So yeah, good point that these all kind of relate to each other. So, related to the scenario planning as well, you can decide to give competitors less information if you want to make the challenge a little bit more difficult. Now, again, we don't want to we don't want to give so little information that the competitor has no idea what to do. But you can say, less about specifically what they are supposed to find, right? You don't have to say, here's a PCAP, the attacker used this exploit on this service, on this host at this time. Please find out what the attacker did, right? You can say, we got hacked, we don't know how, here's our net flow, please help us figure it out. Yes?
What are your thoughts on trailing tasks that so like in, let's say, people want to find out they have filter on the two or three that is trailing. So maybe do like a bit here, like you said, the wire shark. But you're one you're looking at this program is looking for success, find out wire shark, you're looking for relationships, not
Yeah, absolutely. We do multi-part challenges like that all the time. So actually, one of our requirements that we give the challenge developers for the President's Cup is that all of them have to be multi-part and award partial credit for getting somewhere close to a solve. And some of our developers choose to go that route where, like you said, there's some program, running on a machine. Maybe they have to figure out, okay, which port is it talking on, or which end host is it talking to? Then they have to, go and dig deeper. Maybe after they do that host-based analysis, maybe they're reverse engineering that binary to figure out what else it's doing, or maybe they're exploiting the C2 server that it's talking to. Yeah, you can go all kinds of different directions with that. And that's a great way, again, to encourage that team-based collaboration where one person might be the host-based kind of analyst, then pass it off to your reverse engineering expert or to your exploitation expert or somebody like that. Yeah, we love those kinds of challenges. Yes?
difficulty can be baked into the scenario planning, right? But not just telling them less information, but the environment might be bigger, right? More diverse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
An environment of all web servers that have a myriad of applications, or even like mobile clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So we actually do some of that as well, where maybe the challenge is to exploit some target, but we don't tell you what platform the target's running on or something. That's part of the challenge of figuring out, is this Windows, is it Linux, is it something else, those kinds of things. So yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Yeah.
You talked about partial credit, for solving scenarios.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on measuring and quantify the 25% successful defense or 75%
Yeah, so that is really tough for us. So the way we usually go about that is splitting the challenge up into the different parts first, so we know what our parts are. Then we can take a look at, okay, how much effort does it take to get to this part versus this other part? And sometimes it's kind of not equal, right? If there's 4 parts of a challenge, they might not all be worth 25%. Maybe you award like 10% for getting the first part, then like 50% for getting the second part, and so forth. So it's kind of a measure of how much effort goes into getting this far, how much time does it take, what skills do you need to get to this particular part. So, yeah.
Yeah. The thing you see with that is the reverse engineering of milestones. It's also true. So obfuscate it in a way where you're not.
Yeah, but you're not telling them what milestones are in the first place.
Yeah, so that gets kind of difficult with the challenge aspect, right? Because a lot of the things that we're doing require like a submission. So you would have some kind of check and then a I guess there's different kinds of things, and I think I might get into this a bit later, but there's different types of challenges, right? You can find some piece of information that you're answering, that you're submitting as an answer, like a CTF type of thing, or you can be answering a question like, what is the attacker's first name or something. Or we do what we call environment verification as well. So there might be some way that we can assess your environment to make sure that you've done the correct thing. So with the environment verification, it's probably a bit easier to obfuscate what the milestones are. We can check for things and not tell you exactly what we're checking for. But if you're asking questions, then sometimes it's hard to author the questions in a way that doesn't give information away to the previous. But that goes back to scenario planning and the creative aspect. You kind of have to figure out, how do I want to ask this question so they know what I'm asking, but they don't know what I want them to do? You know, like you don't want to give them the answer by asking the question. Right. So, sure. Yeah. We did not collaborate with NIST. So NIST published the NICE framework, and we referenced that framework to ensure that the challenges that we're developing actually target some applicable skills. Sure. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if we, really reached out to any of these organizations, but looking at how these different, competitions are put on definitely fed into how we operate. We knew we didn't want to kind of go the traditional CTF route because that, in our opinion, that kind of narrows the kind of challenges that you can have, where you're like finding a flag hidden somewhere, or you exploit some service and get a flag. We do have some of those types of challenges, but we didn't want to kind of narrow ourselves into those types of challenges. With our kind of broader competition type of framework that's targeting these nice skills, we can have challenges like a network operator. Please build this network to this specification, and we'll have some service verify that you've done everything correctly and award credit in that way. Yeah. Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah, we kind of wanted to stay away from some of those pitfalls. But again, it's been a learning experience, so we've had pitfalls of our own and lessons learned and so forth. Did you have? Sure.
My third question to you. So a lot of these challenges they come out of the position of more of identification, looking at malware, seeing what is executing in that. So are there any challenges where you actually do remediation practices?
Absolutely.
I ask this question because you got a ransomware is one thing, that's just addressing part of the problem. But to enable continuity of operations, you have to do practices remediation, regardless of the role.
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely have a lot of those challenges. One that we did this year off the top of my head was there's a web service that your company runs. We've been attacked. The website is defaced. Please fix the website, right? So we're restoring the website from a backup was the kind of main goal. But once you did that, the attacker had some persistence mechanisms in place that would just redo their attack. Yes, you kind of got part of it by reestablishing restoring the website from backup, but the attacker's still in there doing what they do. So now your next step is figure out where the attacker is sitting on your network, what kind of persistence mechanisms have they put in place, and fixing those so that you can actually fully restore the website back to its original state.
And also, which follows on the second question, is also trying to tailor that training to the limited resources that your customer might have. So in our case, we only have so much that we can do. We are limited to how we're going to remediate that type of situation. So we provide like living off the land type of challenges where it's almost solely based on the limited resource that we can utilize to actually try to perform like cybersecurity activities.
Yeah, so actually all of our challenges are like that. I think I briefly mentioned that the President's Cup cybersecurity competition uses virtual machines that are hosted, right? So when you click deploy on a challenge, you get your set of virtual machine resources that are not connected to the internet, and that's all you get to solve the challenge, right? We do publish Packer builds for the base images of, we generally use like a Kali virtual machine as the operator terminal, or a Windows 10 box. Just, this is what you're getting to interact with the environment. So the competitors know ahead of time what tools they'll have at their disposal, which I think is really important for them, right? You don't want to go in totally blind and not have any idea what do I have access to, and that kind of thing. So we do tell them what tools are available to them, and if anything diverges from that base image, we'll tell them, hey, these additional tools are installed, so feel free to use those as you wish. Actually, a new thing for this year was having an offline application repository, so they can install packages from apt or pip inside of our environment without actually being connected to the internet, which was a big thing for our competitors, right? They were very mad at us last year, like some challenge, I could solve this in an hour if I only had this one package. Well, if we knew, we would have provided you that package, but I solved it a different way as the developer, so I didn't provide that package. I didn't know that existed or something like that. We really don't want to limit people too much and say, these tools that are commonly available, you just can't use. Sorry for your luck. But we want to enable them to do their job. We've been trying to get better about allowing them to do so, while keeping in mind, living off the land, and sometimes you don't have what you want. So make do with what you got. Yeah.
I assume when you like someone is doing from the past, like you mentioned like math or their questions, like I assume that the aiming for like a lot of the challenges would be your what you'll see in like maybe a cursory report, right? On like decision or things like that, right? Like who, what, where, why, how, that kind of thing, rather than like what and do the challenge and what platform is it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we're generally so if it's kind of a defense type of challenge, then we would kind of ask those who, what, when, where, why type of questions. Maybe not why so much, but if it's more of an attack type of an attack type of challenge, we're probably not going to ask what platform did you just attack. We would do some kind of verification that you actually attack the platform or attack the intended service. Maybe we'll drop a file on there in a certain directory and say, like, after you've attacked this service, please give us the value that's in this file. Yeah.
So for the direction that corresponds to that framework that's out there, like
So we don't actively tie any of our challenges back to MITRE ATT&CK, but our developers certainly use MITRE ATT&CK for inspiration. So if they're not sure what kind of attack to do, they might look up something. Oh yeah, so Yeah, that's actually a good idea. We don't tie things to MITRE ATT&CK right now, but that's certainly something that we might look into. Yeah. As far as like finding, challenge ideas, I guess, looking out in the news and saying, oh, there's this really big solar winds or log4j type of vulnerability. We want to teach people how to defend against that, or teach them how this type of attack is done by the bad guys. So we might just develop something based on that, like a one-off. So we certainly do, but we don't base that off of necessarily like true APTs. We kind of like a build your own APT workshop kind of thing. We might have provide the competitor a threat report that kind of emulates what an APT threat report might look like, and say this particular attacker is known to do these things, and maybe you get like 5 or 10 of them or something, and you have to figure out which attacker is on your network. So we certainly have those, but we're not using like real APTs. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We kind of like pick and choose to build our own, right? Sure. Yeah.
Derek, I have another question. You mentioned about log4j. So you all have like challenges for like security code. And the reason why I ask the question is because the developer standpoint, if you're building SDI, I think it would be a great idea to teach not only developers but security professionals to address the supply attack chain to enable themselves to understand this quick start and attack is going to really begin, right? So create this application as person is vulnerable, somebody that actually creates that simulation. The challenge is comes in and saying, okay, this is what's going on based on log4j attack record, and then provide another challenge to take that and make it to the code. So that's just an idea that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly do have challenges like that where we might provide the competitor, here's the source code for this application that we're using. We keep getting attacked. We don't know how. Please fix it. Then we would do that environment verification type of grading that I mentioned briefly, where our grading script would actually perform some attack on the web service. And if it's still vulnerable, then they don't get points. If it's been fixed, they fix the code, the website's operating normally, then you get points. So we certainly have challenges like that. Writing secure code types of challenges, we found it's very difficult to grade because there's like a million different ways to write the same line of code. So it's hard for us to verify that the competitor has done what we want while also following whichever procedures we've laid out for them. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, we certainly do have challenges like that. Anything else? Any other questions? All right, well, I'll move on then to the challenge development aspect of this. So in this next section, I'm going to talk about some of the best practices that we've found for creating challenges that people actually like, right? So it's one thing to make a challenge. It's another thing to keep somebody engaged in that challenge and have them enjoy actually solving it. I've mentioned some of these already, but testing applicable skills is probably the #1 best practice that we've come across, right? Testing esoteric skills, or doing something like you mentioned, that somebody's sitting there like, why do I have to do this for this challenge to earn points when I don't have to do this for work? We really want to make sure our challenges are testing these applicable skills. So that's why we use the NICE framework to kind of isolate this type of work role might do these types of tasks, so let me put this task in a challenge. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback on our President's Cup challenges. Like just this year, in the first round of the competition, we had somebody write in with feedback, wow, this challenge was so awesome. I actually did this for work yesterday, so it was cool to see this again, or practice this so I can take it back to work and get better at it. We also want to make sure that the challenge doesn't require any tools that you have to pay for. That would kind of be a limiting factor for your competition if you're making folks buy a $1,000 license to a tool to solve your challenge. That's kind of not fair. So we want to make sure that the tools are provided to the competitor, so they have access to solve the challenge, and everyone kind of gets a level playing field. I know some people come to the President's Cup and they say, oh, I have this toolkit at work, why can't I just plug it in and solve your challenges? Well, that's not how this works, right? Sometimes you're put into a scenario and you don't have your regular toolkit, so you gotta make do with what you got, or live off the land, like you were saying. We just like to provide that level playing field for everybody. Everybody has access to the same tools to solve these challenges. If you have what it takes to solve the challenge with what you have, then go for it. And we also want to make sure that there are multiple solution options. So we don't want to kind of pigeonhole the competitors into solving it exactly one way. That's not fair to people that might know a different way to solve, or kind of have different ideas, or maybe their logic takes them along a different path to solve. We're kind of enabling this multiple solution options with the new ability to install software packages or different Python packages and so forth, like I mentioned this year. We don't want to force competitors to solve the challenge in our one intended solution. There are many ways to do the same thing, so why not allow them to do it all of the different ways. Another hard thing to do is to clean up after your development, right? So as you're in there developing the challenges, you're touching these virtual machines, running commands on them. Well, now you have to go back and remove the evidence that you did what you did, so the competitor can't just scroll up in the command history and say, oh, I know exactly what to do because I see what they did to develop the challenge. And this gets to be pretty tough. A couple things come out in the quality assurance testing and type of process where something is left in the browser history or command history or something that would if somebody saw it, it's like, oh, I know exactly what to do now. We don't want to make it too easy for folks that just happen to stumble upon something that gives away the answer. So challenge grading, I've talked about this a bit, so I'll just kind of go over it again and define these terms a little bit more. So the first type of challenge that, there are kind of three different types of challenges that we tend to develop. The first is a token discovery type of challenge. This is more similar to your traditional CTF type of challenge, where there might be a file hidden on a system somewhere, and you have to find that file, and there's some string inside, that you would submit for credit. So this can be a whole bunch of different types of challenges, right? This can be, exploit this service and find the file once you've exploited the machine, then provide the value. Or it can be, when you exploit this binary, it prints out a file, something like that. Or it can be, this piece of malware is communicating with a command and control server, so your job is to intercept the traffic, maybe masquerade as that C2 server and receive that token value that way. there's a whole bunch of different types of ways for token discovery type of challenges to work, but the idea is that the competitors are finding some string inside of the environment that they're given that they would submit for credit. Another type would be question and answer. These are kind of tough, like you were saying, to ask the question without giving the answer, or ask a subsequent question without giving the answer to the first. But this could be something like, we have an insider threat. We don't know who it is. Please provide the first and last name of the insider threat, or provide the host name of the machine that was attacked with this particular exploit. Things along that nature, where they're doing some kind of investigation, or something along those lines inside the environment. They're asked a question and they provide an answer. This kind of goes back to what you were saying about the reporting, who, what, when, where types of questions. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, forensics are great types of challenges for this question and answer type. And then I think I briefly mentioned environment verification as well. So we have capabilities inside of the environment to run a grading script. So the user would kind of get to a stopping point that they think they've solved the challenge. They would request a grading attempt. Then our environment would run some kind of script that's developed by the challenge developer, and it does some checks on the environment. So this can be a whole number of different things, right? If it's a network operations challenge where you have to rebuild the network to some specification, we can have a script that goes in and checks, okay, can I reach here? Can I, talk to who I'm supposed to talk to, not talk to who I'm not supposed to talk to, and ensure the networking is all wired up like it's supposed to be. Or that secure coding challenge, like you mentioned in the back, we might have some verification script that says, let's make sure that the source code that we provided is no longer vulnerable to whichever type of vulnerability we might have. There's, again, kind of limitless options for environment verification type grading. If you can script it, you can grade it, type of thing.
Are there challenges like there's a vulnerability, there's like log4j, like, and then you have, you've got, 0 days, what is the most likely threat vector that you would try to mitigate or affect, or something like that?
Yeah, so I think we try to stay away from questions like what is the most likely threat vector. I think those are often up for interpretation. So somebody might read some of the intelligence a bit differently than somebody else and say, oh, okay, well, this is the most important piece. Exactly.
What was the question that the real world is for us when we that stop and to identify what was the most likely vector for us to prioritize?
Got it. Yeah, so all of the questions that we ask, we ensure that they have exactly one correct answer. So it gets hard to ask questions like, what is the most likely this, right? Because, again, somebody might, interpret differently. But that's a very important part of this challenge grading is making sure there is exactly one correct answer, or if there's maybe more than one correct answer, you have enumerated them and you are accepting all of the possible correct answers equally, right? We've kind of fallen into a trap before where somebody says, oh, I solved this a little bit differently and I got to this answer, and we're like, oh, you know what, actually we didn't think about that, so we'll go back and give you credit and so forth. But that's a lot of work on our end, so we try to avoid that. So yeah, exactly one correct answer is definitely preferred. And that way, folks, when they're solving the challenge, they're not wondering, have I actually gotten to the correct answer, or am I close but not yet there, right? That's another very important part of kind of the challenge development and planning process is making sure the competitor knows when they have solved the challenge. We don't want them wasting time trying to figure out if they have the correct answer, because that gets very frustrating. Anything else? Okay. The next part is challenge variation. So this doesn't refer to different types of challenges, rather different answers in the same challenge. So we want competitors to be able to solve the same challenge many different times and learn the same tasks, follow the same steps, but get to a different answer if possible, right? So this encourages folks to come back and try the challenge again. So, a lot of platforms, if you solve the challenge, then you want to go back and say, I really forgot how to do this part of the challenge. I want to go back and do it again so I can reference that particular piece and try to learn again. But you kind of blaze through it and don't really learn again because you already know the answers, right? You wrote down in your notebook, okay, the answer was, this IP address and so forth. So you're not really engaged with the content the subsequent times that you participate because you already know the answers. The challenge is less engaging and less fun if you know the answer before you start. So we vary the answers inside of the environment that allow you to replay the challenge, maybe solve the follow the exact same steps that you would have before, but get to a different answer the next time you play. So we have different ways of doing this. If we're dropping a file on a system somewhere, we might just change the contents of that file, right? So you remember how to get to that file, but you don't know the answer, so you still have to follow the steps to actually get to what the new answer is. Or if we're providing you a packet capture or something, there's ways that we can change what's in the packet capture, right? Different ports, different IP addresses, different flows, and so forth. We can dynamically generate the artifacts that you're provided for this particular challenge at runtime. So when you click play on this particular challenge, you get a whole new set of files that nobody else has ever received before, which is pretty cool. We've done this for like binary exploitation challenges as well. So we'll write some source code that the competitor has to exploit. Let's say it's like a simple buffer overflow challenge. Well, we can change the size and the location of the buffer at runtime with some variables, right? We can script actually writing the code and then compile it and give you a binary that you'd never seen before. Now, the hard part about this is making sure that it remains fair for all of the competitors. So we don't want me to be provided a super easy binary to exploit and you get the most incredibly difficult binary to exploit. That's not fair for the spirit of the competition. So that gets kind of tricky. We have to make sure that everyone is provided an equally difficult challenge to solve, but with different answers. And again, this discourages answer sharing as well, because if, the President's Cup is the first, it's a 3-round competition. The first 2 qualifying rounds are remote, so you can compete from anywhere in the world. And we don't want, 2 people sitting together sharing answers, one person doing all the work and the other person just copy pasting the answers in. Not fair for the spirit of the competition, and it's really hard to enforce with a remote style competition. We do have ways of monitoring that, but we really discourage it by providing this challenge variation so everybody gets a different answer. And again, encouraging replay of the same challenge to sharpen your skills, reinforce what you learned with the challenge. It's great with answer variation because you have to find the answer again. Any questions about that? All right. So the last part of the challenge development process is typically writing the solution guide. So we internally provide a solution guide for all of the challenges, so we can actually verify that the challenge works. So the developer kind of writes down their intended solution path, and certain developers might say, okay, you can kind of branch off here and maybe go these different paths to enumerate a solution. But we provide very detailed instructions on at least one possible solution. And we try to encourage including explanations for each step as well. So instead of the solution guide saying run this command, then you run that command, well, why do I run this command? Why is this important? What kind of information am I looking for in the output of this command? So those detailed explanations and that step-by-step walkthrough, it's very useful as a training tool after the competition. So with the President's Cup, we open source all of the challenges after they're used up, right? We can't provide the same challenge in a subsequent round of the competition because, again, unfair. Some people already know the intended solution. So after the competition after the challenge is in the competition, we'll open source it. So anybody can take a look at the artifacts that make up that challenge, and we'll open source the solution guide as well. So you can use these challenges as training material. So you can say, oh, I really struggled solving that challenge in the competition. Let me look at the solution guide and learn what I was missing from that. It's even useful for, my friend competed in the President's Cup last year. I'm kind of new at my job. Maybe I don't have the same skills as them. Let me look at the open source challenges and learn how they solved so I can compete next year, something like that. So those open source challenges are available on GitHub. I'll try to open that up here. It's complaining. So this is the President's Cup Cybersecurity Challenge open source repository. All of the challenges are on CISA's GitHub page. CISA is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. They're the sponsors of the competition. So we can go all the way back to PC1, that's the first year of the competition, and PC2 and 3 and so forth. We haven't published or open sourced any of the artifacts for the current season. That would be PC4. That's still ongoing. But sometime early next year, we'll publish all of the challenge artifacts and solution guides for this year's competition as open source right here on this repository. But this year, so far, like I said, we have the Packer builds for the virtual machines that we use, so the competitors can actually see what they're getting themselves into ahead of time, what kinds of tools they're provided. But in some of the older repositories, we'll have, let's take a look at, these are all of the defensive based challenges that were intended for an individual to solve last year. So all of the challenge artifacts and solution guides and so forth are provided. Actually, this was a bad example because you have to go to the hosted environment for this one. But a lot of the challenges, provide some artifacts there for folks to use. Let's see if I can get back. Yeah, so some of them, like a network operations type of challenge, it's really hard to provide that type of challenge for as open source, like please build this network or please fix this network. That's kind of tough to provide that. So in those types of challenges, like that remote Russian remediation challenge that I kicked on, if I recall properly, that challenge was you have like 5 or 10 Windows computers that might be infected with different types of malware. Please use PowerShell remoting to get into each of these systems, determine which one is infected by which type of malware, and also remediate it. That would be tough to provide as open source. Giving all those, all the VMs, it's just like too much for a person to download and actually start up. But there are others that we provide all of the artifacts that you need to be able to solve the challenge. I think I might have lost. But going back to where I was. Yeah, we also have a hosted site where we have all of the old challenges as well. So this is the President's Cup archive site where if you are eligible to compete in the President's Cup, meaning you have a .gov or .mil email address and you're an employee of the federal government directly, not like a contractor, then you can create an account here and play all of the previous challenges that we've had in President's Cup inside of our hosted environment. Actually, these top ones are from this year. So if you competed this year and didn't solve one of the challenges, you can actually go back and try to solve whatever you missed. Or if you guys have the ability to log in or create an account, then you can log in and complete the challenges as well. So this is all of this year's that we have up so far. 2021 competitions as well. So they're all available for folks to play. What's that? Oh, the hosted environment. Yeah. So this is presidentscup.cisa.gov/archive. That'll take you right there to every challenge that we've had for the past 2 years. I'm still working on getting some of the older challenges up on this site, but it's easier for this year's, right? We just kind of move it from the actual President's Cup site over to the archive site. The older challenges are kind of harder to port them over to this type of the new way we're doing things. The actual competition site is not /archive. That would be just presidentscup.cisa.gov. This is the competition's landing page. You can get more information about the competition, the rules, and so forth. Again, direct links to that archive site where you can complete all the past challenges, and to the GitHub page where you can view the open source materials, so any solution guides. If you're playing one of the old challenges, you get stuck, feel free to look up the solution guide and figure out what it is you're missing. And the actual competition game board is over here. So this is where the President's Cup takes place. Any other questions about that? Cool. So back to the slides here. So again, that's all the open source material that we have out there. And if you want to reference kind of anything that I've talked about here today, I think just last week this talk was published as a kind of longer form white paper or technical report by the Software Engineering Institute. So go to that link there and read the paper if you'd like. Yeah, I based the slides for this talk off of what I wrote in the paper with some of my colleagues as co-authors. So it should all be there, I hope. So maybe if you'd like, I can. I think I have maybe 9 minutes left. I can pull up an actual President's Cup challenge, maybe one of the demo challenges that we have up there, and we'll take a look at what the actual challenge document looks like and how somebody might go about solving it. Sure. Yeah, so I believe we have tasking from CISA to make some of these available to a wider audience. But as of right now, the actual President's Cup proper is for federal government employees. So I guess federal government employees and members of the military and so forth. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, and I think we're trying to make that possible. It just gets very hard because it's expensive to to put this on, right? So yeah, we're trying. So let's take a look here. I think I have a new tab. Yeah, so this is the President's Cup Cybersecurity Competition website. Let's take a look at one of the practice challenges in the couple of minutes we have left here. So this is kind of the process that the competitors would go through for actually competing in the competition. They would, there's a login page and so forth that I kind of skipped over, but they would enroll in the competition that they wish to compete in, then start up their session and continue to the game board, where they have a very cool picture with some challenges laid out all over the place. So we have this first challenge, the intergalactic installation station or satellite campus, and so forth. We give a little bit of information before the competitor actually solves the challenge, or actually tries to solve the challenge. So they can say, oh, okay, this challenge is a cyber operator, where this one is exploitation, and this one might be vulnerability assessment, right? So I'm actually not comfortable with exploitation. Maybe let me try one of the other challenges first, so I can get points faster or something. Or it might work the other way, where you know what, I'm participating in this competition to try to learn something. I'm not very good at exploitation, so let me give that one a try and see if I can figure it out and learn something along the way. But the competitor can go ahead and start up the challenge. So what's going on here is our infrastructure is deploying the virtual machines that the competitor needs to be able to solve this particular challenge. So each competitor gets their own set of virtual machines that they would use, hosted on our infrastructure. It's actually in AWS's infrastructure, but it's ours. We're footing the bill, I guess. So, but yeah, they really don't need anything, right? We give some background information, some getting started information, and as this is a demonstration type of challenge, the goal is to install some software on a Kali machine. So it gives you the steps to do so. Very easy challenge to solve, but again, this is a demonstration type of challenge for just to kind of get folks acquainted with the environment. So they have their challenge questions at the bottom. They're getting two different tokens, a token for installing an application with apt and installing an application or a software package with pip. So they might click into their game space resources, and this is where they're actually interacting with the Kali virtual machine that they're provided for their challenge right through their web browser. They don't need any additional tools or software or anything, right? They're actually interacting with a virtual machine hosted on AWS through their web browser. So really lowers the bar for who can compete in this competition, right? All you need is a web browser. So going back to the instructions, I need to run these 3 commands to be able to solve the challenge correctly. and then go to challenge.us inside of the provided game space resources to get my token. So I'll solve part of it. So I'll apt update, and this is kind of showing users that, hey, there's this really new capability this year that you can use apt and pip to install resources. Please use it. So I think I needed to install nload, is that right? Yeah. Okay, so I've installed nload, and the instructions tell me to go to challenge.us to verify my environment. So I'll go to challenge.us and click grade my challenge. This is that environment verification type of grading that I mentioned before. My challenge was graded at this time, and here's my token for actually installing that software or solving that part of the challenge. Again, this grading script or environment verification script can be anything that the challenge developer can think of. So I need to get this token out of the environment, so I'll copy it, and there's a nifty little way to get text out of the VMs here. Sometimes you have to click that button twice, but I can paste that token in after my environment has been verified. I'll submit and get credit for this first part. The second part I didn't answer, so I didn't get any credit for it. Well, that's kind of like a brief introduction to how our challenges look, and I know that's kind of a silly challenge, but just a demo of how the environment works and how a challenge might look. Any questions about that? Season 23 will be in 19 years, I think, huh? Yeah, we're on season 4 right now, so. Season, the 2023 season. I see, okay. Okay. I don't know if we have a schedule for the 2023 season yet, but if you look, keep an eye on presidentscup.cisa.gov. That'll give you all the information you need. So these are the dates for the 2022 competition. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull up the leaderboard here. So one thing with the public leaderboards is we try to maintain some kind of aspect of operational security for our competitors, so we don't put their real names out there. Yeah, just the social security numbers, and that's it. Yeah. Yeah, but if we look at, so the President's Cup is kind of split up into 3 tracks, we call it. There's a teams track where you can have anywhere between 2 and 5 people working together in your team, and that includes both offensive and defensive type of challenges. Then we have this individuals track A and track B. Track A, blue, being the defensive type of challenges. Track B being the more offensive type of challenges for individuals to tackle. But we can look at the scoreboards, and you don't need to be authenticated to view the scoreboard at all. You can just kind of see. So we have Flying Candy came in first place for Track A Round 2 this year. Their sponsoring organization is listed as other, so I'm not sure there. But we have some folks from DoD and DOJ qualifying as well. The stars mean they've qualified for the final round of the competition, and the finals are taking place on location at CISA's facility in Virginia in December. So if any of you happen to be Flying Candy, I will see you in December. That's right. But yeah, feel free to check out President's Cup CISA.gov and poke around, see if you can try out the challenges on the archive site or look at the challenges on the GitHub page as well. Does anybody have anything else? Any other questions, comments? All right, well, in that case, I think we're just about at time. So thanks all for being here. I appreciate it.